Did you know that when naval ships aren't shooting at pirates, they shoot at each other? Aye, boys will be boys, but when one flag hates the other, the guns get loaded, and stuff blows up. It's a good show, and there's a game up on Kickstarter right now that'll drop you right into the middle of the action called Clear the Decks. So strike your colors and come aboard! There's enemies on the horizon! Let's get the players set up first. Each will receive 3 cannon cards. That's one 18-pounder, a 24-pounder, and a 36-pounder. Place them ready side up and remove any unused ones from the game. You'll also get a handy reference card to help you navigate. It shows the turn actions order on the one side and attack priority on the other. Just hang on to it for now, it'll make sense in time. Now pick a color and take the matching tokens, all 3 of them, and put them with their corresponding cannon cards, also ready side up. Grab the player cards and shuffle them good, and once you've managed that, go ahead and deal 6 to each player. Take a look and make sure you've got some ammunition cards. If not, you may take the next 6 cards and shuffle the old ones back in the deck. Thank you, Mr. Mulligan. Determine your first player and you're good to go. Now you just need an enemy to fight. Browse the ships on the setup chart and pick the ship you want to shoot at. Mind you, the leftmost one is the easiest and the rightmost one is the biggest, baddest kill ship. So maybe pick something in the middle. How about the sloop? Yeah, we'll go with that. Now, count down on the colored section according to the number of players. We're playing with 2, so we count down 2. This'll be a reference when setting up, so mark this spot. The black and white section on top will tell you how many stacks your enemy ship has, so set up boards with that many white rectangular card areas. Time to get her cards ready. We're going to use some cheat sheets for this part, if you don't mind. Separate the enemy ship cards by type. There's crew, boarders, structure, guns, and 3 types at that, events, plus hull and leak cards. The guns, boarders, hull, and leaks need no shuffling, but the rest do, so make that happen. Now place the leak cards on the ship stacks according to printed location. For all ye lubbers, the bow is the front, the waist is the middle, and the stern is the rear. Get rid of any leftovers. Now put the hull cards on top of those in the same way. Time to build us some ship decks, which means it's time for our second cheat sheet. Let's start with cannon cards. Check the black and white section and make a pile of however many of each cannon type is listed there. The sloop uses only light cannon, so that's what we want. If there was more than one type, we'd shuffle. All the other cannon cards can skedaddle. Go back to the setup chart and look at the colored section. This will tell you how many of each card to put in her assembly deck. The yellow section is for cannon, and for a sloop it says 9, so we'll deal 9 into the assembly deck. The rest go in the ship draw deck. Now for the crew. That's the blue section, and our sloop wants 4. Put them in the assembly deck, but this time the rest go into a separate crew deck. The boarders are easy. That unshuffled stack will be its own deck. All the cards are presently identical, so there's no need for shuffling. On to events, which is the section that's red with black text. Looks like we'll be dealing 3 of those into the assembly deck, and the rest go into the ship draw deck. And finally, structure cards. That'll be the red section with the white text, and our sloop gets 5 of those, so that goes into assembly. And the rest? You guessed it. Ship draw deck. Again, if you pick a different ship to fight, you'll have a different set of numbers, but we're starting here for now. Let's move on to the final bits. Shuffle the assembly deck you just made and deal evenly onto the stacks, and then flip the top card of each. If an event card is revealed, it'll affect the first player. Yeah, I bet you're glad you won that coin toss now, huh? Next, shuffle that ship draw deck. And using our cheat sheet, this is where we place that deck, as well as the crew and boarders decks. Just make sure to leave room for discard piles. Finally, get your token pools out there. You've got the injured crew and broken cannon tokens. Those go next to the enemy crew deck. And the damage and boarders tokens. Just put those next to your boarders deck. Now, dust off your hands and get ready for action. It's time to put some holes in their boat. Let's look at the turn actions. Firstly, you can play 1 officer, 1 marine, or both. The symbols next to any text will tell you when they will activate. You may also play 1 tactic for each of your undestroyed cannon. During this part of your turn, another player can pass you a useful card, so that's nice. And you may replace another player's destroyed cannon by handing him or her your cannon card of the same weight, unless it's your last one, that is. And finally, you can blast the bad guys with all of your might. And that's really what you came here to do, so let's take a closer look. Firstly, a cannon may not fire if it has 2 borders tokens on it. It may not fire if it readied this turn, and all of your attacks will execute simultaneously. Now that we've got the fine print out of the way, let's shoot at this card. How do we do that? By looking at this little chart. The numbers on the left are cannon type. To their right, the ammo types that go with them. It refers to your cannon cards and the ammo in your hand. If you want to destroy this card, you have to make a matching set. So in this case, an available 18-pound cannon with chain shot or round shot, a 24-pounder with chain shot, or a 36-pounder with grape shot. Once you've decided your course of action, do this. Take the target token from your attacking cannon and place it on the card you wish to destroy. Flip the attacking cannon long ways to its reloading side to show it just went boom. Also, discard the ammo you just used. The card is destroyed, move it off the ship, but don't discard it just yet. Retrieve your target token and put it back where you found it. Now that was a cannon attack. You can fire with any of your available cannon, or even work in some other options from helpful cards you may encounter in the player deck. But they'll all happen at the same time, so work it all out before pulling the trigger, mate. Once the shooting is done, it's time to weigh the consequences. Check those cards you just maliciously obliterated to see what they may have activated. Any blast icons now resolve. And in our case, something good has come of it. This card removes a crew card. So away with the face-up crew on the stack next to it. A quick note that crew and borders don't discard to the main deck. They go to their own respective areas. So the crew goes to the crew discard, and borders return to their stack. Once you've survived the consequences, you may chuck it into the discard pile. Now the bad guy strikes back. Any cards you saw fit to let live will now make you pay for it. Any crossed swords icons on the face-up stack cards will resolve. Now these will do various things, but let's look at 2 fairly common ones. When a cannon counterattacks, it generally inflicts damage to your ship, as one might expect. Grab yourself a damage token, and here's how to add it. Start with the ready cannon. Check from the heaviest to the lightest for the first one you find, and that's who gets it. If there's more than 1 token, then the next in line, etc., etc. If there are no ready cannon to put a token on, move along to the reloading cannon and do the same thing. If a counterattack sends borders your way, and these are taken after cannon damage, then do a similar but backward check. Borders prefer weaker points of entry, so we'll start with the reloading cannon and begin with the lightest, moving up to heaviest. If that doesn't do it, then on to the ready cannon, lightest to heaviest. If one of your cannon gets a 3rd token, whether by damage or borders, it is removed, destroyed, obliterated. This is bad. Try to avoid it. Got it? Great. Onward! Next, flip over any face-down cards on top of the enemy's stacks. If it's an event card, well, the next player in line gets whatever it does. Then discard it and replace it. Also, if you've got any target tokens with their X side up, flip those back up to ready. I know we haven't covered that yet, but be patient. Finish things up by dealing yourself 2 new cards. The hand limit is 8, so discard down if you need to. If you get a card with a lightning bolt, then it's going to activate immediately. Resolve and discard, or display if its effect happens later. Now the play passes to the next player, and we begin our turns by flipping any reloading cannon to their ready side. Then flip their corresponding target tokens to the X side, to remind you that it cannot ready and fire on the same turn. Continue taking turns in this way until you make it to one of 2 resolutions. Victory condition. Here's the outcome you're hoping for. If all hull cards are destroyed, and 1 or more of you still has at least 1 good cannon left, you are triumphant, like there was ever any doubt. Of course, defeat is always a possibility as well, and that one is easy to guess. All players have destroyed cannon. That includes inactive cannon that have 2 borders on them. If you can't shoot, you're sunk, matey. And that's the basics. I hope we got your sea legs under ya, and we wish you success and glory as you clear the decks. For starters, this is the first time I've ever felt a personal need to have a playmat just to aid me in setting up a game. but it's not the first time I've had to elaborately prepare decks of cards before the game began. And as with the others, once the setup is done, you don't really mind how you got there, just that it's now time to play. It's not complicated, just complex. The cooperative nature of this game means that many have already made up their minds about it. To some, solving problems as a team is a great experience, while others just don't consider them to be games at all, just puzzles. This one functions as co-ops often do, where plans are collectively made, resources are shared, and you just generally watch each other's backs. In fact, it's suggested that you should play the game open-handed, for easier planning and strategizing. The fun is in the coordinated attacks on the ship, and deciding which of its counterattacks can best be survived. For the most part, there are very few surprises, on either side. Your arsenal is fairly straightforward, as is your enemies. As the game is, you have many options to learn, and thus far, we've not worked our way through every card in a single game, mostly due to the fact that we've only ever fought a 3-stack sloop. I could easily see setup expanded in a legendary encounters sort of way, to add even more unpredictability. In fact, this would be an easy favorite, because it's a solid idea, and maybe if people show up to pitch into their campaign, we could see some expansions, though the designer's intentions for the future are unknown. The biggest problem we had was with the rulebook, and some of the card text, but since this is an early prototype, it's fairly normal to expect some bugs. In fact, while learning this game, there were updates that corrected several points of confusion, and the designer was ready with answers when asked. So I expect that you'll receive a streamlined, battle-tested book of rules that'll explain itself smoothly. Clear the Decks really appears to be a passion project by a naval history buff. Mr. Pinyan has a love of the source material, and it shows. You won't find much Pirates of the Caribbean in this, but you will find Master and Commander. There's even a Jonah card. I kept expecting to draw a Lucky Jack, honestly. Clear the Decks has launched on Kickstarter, so have a peruse and consider jumping in. We're all on board with this one, even though that may mean facing the gallows. And with that, it's time for farewell. Thanks for sailing in for ye old pirates, Parley, whatever flag you fly. And we'll see ya after the battle, mates.